from China. We see in key sectors that are attracting FDIs in energy, mining, manufacturing, technology. You know where these investors come from. It's European countries as a general. It's not enough from Germany. What can Germany or what can Europe be for you? I think we have a great history, a long history of investment from our countries into your countries. We should continue like this. Your special economic zones can be our gateway to African markets. And after a certain collapse of our economy, everybody is looking for new, resilient ways of doing business. Means, on the one side, new markets, on the other side, dual sourcing strategies. And there comes the question, where do we as German entrepreneurs go to? It might be China, but it is no more China. And you all know what happened in America, what will happen in America. So there will be a friction between China, Europe, and the US increasingly. So where do German companies go? I come out from Qatar last night, where I spoke yesterday on a congress in the GCC states. Yes, there are some companies going to the Middle East, opening up their Middle East hub in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, or Qatar, or whatever. But this is only 11 million people. Look at Kenya. Even Nairobi is close to that figure. So we need to get to the markets that are interesting for the future. And the second country everybody in Germany is talking about is India. The surprising thing, if you talk to German entrepreneurs that mostly do their decision for direct invests in an area which we call somewhere around here and not in a brain area. So they don't trust India enough. So they trust more traditional relations we have with your countries. And the problem with India is that same thing, we don't know enough about India. We don't know about the possibilities. We don't know about the possibilities of your special economic zones. We need to learn this. We want to do something. We have the money, but we are sitting a little bit lazy somewhere in Germany with our wonderful landscape around, with the money that my father's generation made, and are waiting for what's happening next. So please, let's jump in the future. What can be done from your special economic zones to attract FDIs? First of all, we need a stable regulatory environment, which includes legal services, which includes banks. For us Germans, for us Europeans, it's very important having a home bank or Commerzbank or Deutsche Bank or a BNP or whatever with us. So please help us and put pressure on European banks that they should open offices, representation offices, or real banks in your countries. Because the traditional German entrepreneur goes to his bank and asks him, can't you help me with doing some invest in Kenya? Crazy if I do this in Munich, but it's the common way. So let's put pressure on banks. We need the skilled workforce. We saw it in the video. You have the young people. We don't have them in Germany. We are a too old generation. Look at myself. So you have the skilled workforce. We don't have them. Keep them in your countries and let's create something here. We need, of course, political stability. Yes, this is your topic. This is your thing that you need to solve. But we need this. We need a business-friendly society. And this is something I really like in the Gulf states. Everything that you as an entrepreneur want, you get there. You get a very business-friendly society over there, a very business-friendly government there. go there and you get what you ask for. And of course, last thing, we need a market access and we need an ongoing support. So it is not, and you know this from your special economic zones, it is not done by attracting an FDI to your zones. It's much more taking the entrepreneur from my countries by the hand, with helping him with some strategic connection, letting them know the interesting persons. So it's that ongoing taking somebody by the hand. You know, what we see as really positive effects or positive examples, you know them, are these three examples. For us, the automotive sector is key in Germany. And by the way, it's the sector that is suffering the most because we are lacking technology. We are lacking technology versus our Chinese competitors. So, automobile industry, including suppliers, is key for us. And there we see in Morocco and we see in Egypt a strong development in the future, attracting suppliers, attracting OEMs. This is the market of the future. And if I talk about with German entrepreneurs, everybody is looking now into Egypt and everybody is looking into Morocco. South Africa is a stable part of the German car building industry. So we need more of these examples. Energy, renewable energy project, I think is the most important part for us in Germany. Running out of Russian gas, running out of Russian oil, so we need new energy projects with you, and of course, tech hubs. What we learned a lot is your country is quite challenging and quite positive into tech hubs. Let's continue on this way. Let's continue on the presentation. No? Okay. What do we see as trends around special economic zones? You're getting more and more. And the special economic zones internationally are very present in my country. So if you are a classical, like my family is in machine building industry in southern part of Germany, you have offers from so many countries in the world, from real interesting special economic zones, and you have to work on this, which is really an attractive offer. Speak in the language of the entrepreneurs you are talking to. So the competition between you is strong. And it's not only you into Africa, it's Arabia, it's India, it's China, it's Uzbekistan. It will be Ukraine after the horrible war that will be heavily attracting international investors. And by the way, we started with this. It is also the UK and the former Eastern European countries that are looking for German invests or European invests. So the competition between the special economic zones is tough. So find yourself, find the right wording, and let the world know about. What we see, two trends. You know this better than I, is sector-specific zones and cross-sectoral zones. You know this better, but needs to be defined, needs to be offered to German industry, is an important part. What can be benefits of our stronger cooperation? Of course, for us, it's an enhanced trade and invest between us and you. It's shared resources, increasing bargaining power, economic diversification, and knowledge and skill transfer. what we see, but just I would love to learn more into discussions with you during the day, 2 interesting examples of working together. Let me be quite open. What I don't understand in special economic zones is why don't you collaborate better with each other? Yes, I know that there's an interest of each state in their economic zones. There's an interest of private economic zones as being competing with others. But if in the moment where I'm a German entrepreneur, I would open up my subsidiary in Kenya, and a year later I would love to open up in Tanzania. Why should I go through the whole procedure again with accreditation of my company, which I did in the neighborhood about 12 months ago? The neighborhood has about 80% of all the documents that I need in Tanzania for my next company creation. I delivered already to Kenya the year before, and now I have to do everything again. So why don't you try to collaborate more on this? Why don't you find together? I know it's a difficult topic and it's your topic, it's not my topic, but I just may mention what a small entrepreneur from south of Germany would love to do when he looks into your countries, that it's not only the individualism of each country or each special economic zone. Let's have a broader picture on this. So we heard about this. We see clear, apart from the market expansion, we see the partnerships, the opportunities in manufacturing, in technology, renewable energy, and agriculture as the main points. We see the Sustainable Initiative, you know about them, and as a key part. So the last question I would love to answer to you: which strategy are there to promote more FDIs from Europe? First of all, it's government again. The government support, incentives, yes. But to be honest, this is only the base of our collaboration. Yes, government can help with taxes, with real estate, with a positive economic, business-friendly climate. But in the end, it's you as our partners here that take us by the hand. And let it be concrete. It's really being an entrepreneur somewhere 3,000 kilometers north from here. I'm lost in Kenya. So I'm completely lost. Yes, I know that I want to do some business in Africa, but I'm lost. So I go to my Chamber of Commerce here, which is strong and interesting, but apart from this, I'm relatively lost. So it is you building up this confidence with us. It is your special economic zones having a representation or somewhere in Germany or somewhere in Middle Europe that I know that I can talk to, that I can address to. And when I land next time in Kenya, there are much more of these smiling people around taking me by the hand. And I mean this in a concrete way, taking me by the hand and showing me through the sometimes problematic way forward doing my business in Africa. So the government support is key. The governmental support is key. The information and awareness in Europe is key. We need more private partnerships, public-private partnership, PPP, everybody knows about. We need more of this. We need more to talk about them. We need investment in training and capacity building programs for local workers. You have these persons. We don't have them, actually. We have 5 million people living in social welfare in my country, which is unbelievably expensive. but we don't have enough workers. So we are lacking about 2 million open jobs in my country. On the other side, we have 5 million people which we pay in social welfare. Crazy. Typical example of a rich state that is over the rim. So we need your activity. We need your smiling going in the future. Maybe it takes longer than expected for everybody, but we need this openness. What we see, this we discussed a couple of times, regional cooperation we discussed also. Sorry, now it was too quick. One of the most important but often underestimated is a regular targeted engagement with the European economy. If you allow me, this is one of some strategic consulting companies like we do, others do the same. We need to know, we need to make your potential known to German industry. It is not known. We need you to talk to our associations, entrepreneurial association. We need you to talk to our chambers of commerce in Germany. You need to go to Germany and talk to entrepreneurs, to leadership entrepreneurs about opportunities in Africa. Like myself, I will return next week to Germany, and I'm definitely convinced about. I will let them know about an interesting visit I had in Kenya. So this is something that you need to do. You need to let us know and teach us about. It is crucial to maintain that regular and targeted interaction. It is because of the competition that you have between yourself and other countries. You need to be staying engaged and visible. And in this context, our association, the ICC, the International Chamber of Commerce, which is also present in your states, but each association is always working for all its members. So what you really need is an activity for you, Kenyan, African, social, special economic zones. So this is, as a conclusion, it is looking into the future. It is clear that the potential for the special economic zones, it's immense, it's huge. But we need to communicate about this. We need to talk about this. Success will depend on addressing the existing challenges and leveraging the benefits of our regional working together. European economy stands to gain significantly from greater internationalization. We need this. Everybody is looking into new ways of cooperating, and everybody is looking into resilient dual sourcing or new market strategies. To be honest, we all know there's no 100% resilience. But nevertheless, if we don't try it, we will miss an opportunity. And I think the opportunity of doing something with especially African special economic zones is huge. Let's embrace this opportunity for stronger international cooperation investment and really try to do something. But my pledge is really let's intensify contact. Why don't you do your Congress next time in Berlin or somewhere else so that German entrepreneurs can see you, feel you, and being taken by you by the hand, and let them know about the opportunities you have in your countries here. You are somehow the future of Europe, and everybody knows this. But in pragmatic steps forward, we need to improve our collaboration, cooperation, and communication. Thank you very much for listening to me. I will be with you the whole day, so if there's anything we can do from our side in helping you on that way, more than happy to talk to you this day or the days after. I'm heavily fighting for this, and I really like your smiling faces even after a long evening, and I know that we share the same dream. Why don't we have 50 more German companies that are now not really knowing where to go? Why don't we have them in Africa? Let's do this as a general topic until your next annual meeting, and then we count down how many did we together achieve coming into Africa. Thank you very much. Open for questions, or maybe later on, whatever you like to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Holger, for the interesting insights, and good to hear about all the interest in Africa and interest in collaborating more with Africa from a European and German side.
Absolutely.
We would like to take 1 or 2 questions, if it's possible, or if someone has questions.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I just would like to ask you one question about the European banks leaving Africa, because you just said that we should attract them. Now, how we could do that, as now they're all leaving Africa? Thank you.
Unfortunately, you're right, and unfortunately, it's much more the US pressure on German banks, taking care for KYC, money laundering, and so it's surprisingly, for myself, I sit in the board of Commerzbank, which is the second largest German bank apart from Deutsche Bank. And we are intensely discussing about Africa, Arabia. They even closed down their Dubai branch 3 years ago. Why? Because of pressure out of the US. And so I think we, from a legal point of view, we can't do very much. It is really that all of you have to address a letter, or whenever you are in Germany, whenever you are somewhere in Europe, you have to meet German banks and ask them for opening up at least a liaison office, a representative office in your countries. Because if I continue to Malawi, because I will invest in mining there. So I continue for a week in Malawi about discussions. And what did I do last week, Monday, when I have my last day in Germany? I asked my bank, don't you have an office in Malawi? And of course, they don't. So this is, put pressure on it. Ask your government next time when they are in Berlin. Talk to some C-level from our banks, at least a representation office, at least somebody who knows German entrepreneurs, and something. Very happy to support this, and whenever I can do, let me know about, but it's for all of us. We need to put pressure on this. You had another question.
Thank you. One more quick question and quick answer. I think that would be good. Sorry.
At least 2.
حد يترجم ترانزليتر لو سمحت لاني بحكي عربي. I want a translator maybe.
Yes.
In which language are we talking?
Talking Arabic or less.
Yeah, well, that's worse.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you very much. Now finding the right. Which is the right channel to go?
I think you just...
Okay, let's try.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. أولاً اسمحوا لي أن أعرف بنفسي. أنا سلامة إبراهيم الغويل، رئيس مجلس المنافسة ومنع الاحتكار الليبي. وصراحة أجابتني الصدفة المحضة للمشاركة في هذا المحفل الاقتصادي الهام الذي يجمع في معناه وروحه بين مصادر الثروة وتصنيعها وإعادة استهلاكها، وهذه قاعدة طبيعية يجب أن تحدث بين كل مكونات الكرة الأرضية، وهذا عنوان سلام وعنوان تكافل الحقوق وعنوان نقل خبرة وعنوان خير بين المنتج والمستهلك والمصدر لنتطور ويتطور الفكر الاقتصادي من خلالها، وهذه لمحات خير. ولكن أيضا هناك بعض الملاحظات التي يجب أن الإنسان يتعلمها من خلال تجارب الآخرين في الشكل وفي المضمون، في أمل ننظر دائما للجزء المليان من الكاس. بالتأكيد لما نتكلم على هذا الجوهر أنا أرى أن فيه مشاركات خجولة جدا لبعض مراكز التأثير سواء في الجغرافيا أو في الموارد أو حتى في كيمياء التواصل بين الشعوب، وهي شمال أفريقيا. شمال أفريقيا تتمثل في ليبيا، تتمثل في مصر، تتمثل في تونس وفي الجزائر يعني هذه لمحة على الشكل. لما نقف على ألمانيا دائما ننظر لها نظرة خيرة. ألمانيا دائما الاقتصاد متاعها متوازن خالي من أي تأثيرات ومدلولات سياسية، اللهم هو بعض التنمية بعض التميز. المدرسة الألمانية مدرسة متميزة، لكن سؤالي هنا بعد هذا التلميح هو لماذا الوجود الألماني الاقتصادي خجول في منطقة شمال أفريقيا، والتي هي شريان الربط الحقيقي بينها وبين القارة الأفريقية كاملة، واللي هي محور ارتكاز الثروة ومحور ارتكاز واهتمام كامل المؤثرات الاقتصادية من الصين. يعني هو التكامل إذا دبت فيه روح الثقة وروح الأمل وروح التوازن ونقل المعرفة وجدنا إلى ما هو خير وما هو مناسب وما هو مجدي. وإذا وجدنا فيه المماحكة الغير مشروعة والصراعات الاقتصادية اللي في مدلولها أهداف سياسية، قد نجد أنفسنا نستمر في الهبوط ونستمر في عدم الفعالية. فسؤالي هو لماذا الوجود الألماني خجول في منطقة شمال أفريقيا؟ وشكرا أستاذ.
Thank you very much, Shukran, for this wonderful question. I might be short in saying we don't know enough about each other. And some of your countries intensify that contact. So let's stay in the example of Morocco. AMDI, the promotion agency, they will open an office in Berlin, hopefully next year, only to be a liaison office. So German entrepreneurs can go somewhere and talk to somewhere as long as they are still in our home country. So we don't know enough about it. We need to talk more about. You should have here about 20 German entrepreneurs that might be interested and discuss with them and take them to the bus trip in the afternoon. This should be our topic for the next 12 months. So more than happy to support this way, but this is exactly the answer. Some of your countries maybe have the money to invest in this. Maybe you need to collaborate somehow. I would be happy to have an office of African special economic zones in Berlin. And then it's up to you how you do your competition. But at least being a German entrepreneur, I would know where to go to. It would be the Chamber of Commerce, or it would be the office you have in Frankfurt or in Berlin. But this should be the way of the future, and then having to communicate about your individual interest. And then, of course, it is individually. I would, if I would be a car producer, yes, I would for the moment. I would go to Morocco, Egypt or something. If I would be in photovoltaic, we had a nice project, 70 million invest from a German photovoltaic company investing in Malawi. So that's really, so first of all, point of contact. Discuss, talk to each other. That would be absolutely next step forward. And happy to continue with this. Is there one more question, allowed? Short question?
Please, very, very quick, okay, because we're really running out of time.
I jump off.
Well, thank you very much. Knowing that you're from the International Chamber of Commerce makes our case a bit easy, like my colleague had asked, because it's one thing talking about these things, but it's another thing actually connecting. And because we really want to be able to link up with the Chamber and other people that have the funds, because one of the major issues we have is infrastructure development, which we need to partner where necessary to enable the businesses to grow and be able to get the goods and other things out, exchange, basically. So you've said also that you make your contacts available, because I don't know whether you have a place in Africa already? Okay. Would like to link up. I'm with the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority in Nigeria. So we're developing new zones as well, especially economic zones. But one of the major challenges we have oftentimes is the funding of the infrastructure in those zones. And that becomes a deterrent for some people, investors to come in. So if you can have some kind of partnership or so, that you co-fund the infrastructure and recover your money over time, I think that will be easier, you know.
But I think everybody is ready in investing as long as the stability for the kickback or the return of investment is there. So my friend who is investing 70 million in a photovoltaic is a German entrepreneur. He's really taking 70 million of his private family money, building up a photovoltaic, because after several discussions with the president and the ministers in Malawi, he feels safe that for the next 10 years there will be a certain return of his investment. And so we need to really talk about concrete projects together. And this was why your President Ruto took me in his arms, and I was surprised about this, because usually we Germans, we don't hug each other, and said, let's continue on these concrete projects. It's not about pouring out money. It's about let's do something in concrete work together. And that would be absolutely my topic for the future. Happy to continue.
That is why in the zones, that's where we can guarantee that there will be stability, because outside the zones, we can't say much. Politics can come in, but within the zones, yes.
We always believed that Russian gas would continue for the next 20 years. So we don't need absolute stability, and we don't need a proof, a notary for everything. At least as we go in the same direction, as we believe in you, as the political stability is there, as the legal system is there. I think my friend didn't know Malawi about 12 months ago, to be honest, but now he's investing 70 million of his family money in there, because they convinced him. After several meetings we had Lilongwe discussing with him, and he believes now in that. And this should be the confidence we have to work on.
Okay, thank you. We need to move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Holger. Please join me in thanking him for the amazing talk. So I apologize. I know there's a lot of interest, and there have been a few more questions. Urgent questions to Holger. Please do raise them with him in person, but we have to move on. We are already running a good bit late. Next we're going to have a short video to present. I hope it's ready.
Your Excellency President Ruto, my brother Commissioner Muchanga, Secretary General Benis of AEZO, Excellencies, it's an honor to address you, and I thank the African Union Commission and the Africa Economic Zones Organization for inviting me to participate in this important gathering. Special economic zones, SEZs, and free zones have proven to be useful tools for development, given the right conditions and support. The most successful zones provide an enabling environment through improved infrastructure, trade facilitation measures, and strategic clustering for industrial growth and economic resilience. SEZs are not and should not be merely about tax privileges or incentives. They are about unlocking the potential of targeted areas, creating synergies among industries, and overcoming specific constraints to build competitiveness from the ground up. Done right, they can become genuine poles of economic transformation, and this is every bit as true for Africa as it has been elsewhere. Special economic zones represent a critical tool for economic development, but their effectiveness hinges on strategic design and international regulatory compliance. Too often, governments create free zones that inadvertently conflict with WTO rules by tying fiscal benefits to export performance or domestic content requirements. These approaches create legal vulnerabilities that can undermine the very economic advantages that these zones are meant to generate. The path forward requires a nuanced approach. Governments must carefully eliminate export-related incentives and domestic content requirements that could trigger international trade disputes, particularly in non-least developed countries. Moreover, they must thoughtfully manage the tax treatment of goods produced in these zones when they are sold domestically. Because of their simplified import processes involving duties and taxes, special economic zones often come under scrutiny as potential conduits for illicit trade, exploiting customs exemptions. However, being outside the customs territory does not mean that no customs controls or procedures should apply to companies, operators, and goods in these zones. Governments are right to view special economic zones as tools for trade facilitation, and the WTO's Trade Facilitation Agreement offers a set of measures that can be implemented in these zones to maximize economic opportunities while effectively combating illicit trade. The true potential of special economic zones extends far beyond traditional fiscal incentives and customs exemptions. These zones can serve as powerful policy sandboxes, as close as policymakers can get to control laboratories, where they can pilot transformative trade facilitation strategies before implementing them nationwide. Governments can trial measures such as single window systems, advanced digital customs processes, authorized operators, agency cooperation, innovative risk management techniques, and integrated infrastructure solutions in a contained setting. By reimagining special economic zones as platforms for structural innovation, rather than mere tax havens, nations can create compelling investment destinations that drive economic progress whilst maintaining rigorous international standards. These zones become more than economic enclaves. They become proving grounds for national economic transformation. Success in special economic zones demands more than policy. It requires genuine partnership. Governments and private sector leaders must engage in a robust ongoing dialogue to reimagine these economic spaces. By bringing together enterprises, research institutions, government services providers, and businesses in close proximity, special economic zones foster innovation and create opportunities for skills and know-how development. Close private and public sector collaboration can result in incentive structures being designed in ways that are both compelling to investors and aligned with international standards. This is not about constraining economic potential, but about unlocking it, crafting zones that are agile, attractive, and aligned with the evolving demands of modern business, as well as with global economic dynamics. For African economies, special economic zones represent an opportunity to build competitiveness and create zones of excellence, not just zones of exception. As economies diversify, we see more zones developing around service sectors, from tourism to tech. As with manufacturing, fully leveraging this potential requires governments to provide essential services. In this case, reliable power, internet connectivity, digital infrastructure, and skills development. The WTO plays an important role in this journey. Our rules-based framework supports a predictable trade environment that provides African special economic zones with access to inputs, markets, and new opportunities. Additionally, our capacity building activities and technical assistance are dedicated to helping developing countries better integrate into global trade, fostering industrial development and creating sustainable jobs. One example is the work we're doing with the Cotton 4+ countries in Africa, which includes Côte d'Ivoire, partnering with stakeholders to scale up value addition and connect them to lucrative global markets like the $260 billion global sports apparel market. The special economic zone investment of Arise in the Republic of Benin and another one under construction in Côte d'Ivoire are part of this process. This demonstrates how international cooperation can support value addition and sustainable development. Investment is critical for economic transformation. It turns potential into progress. At our last ministerial conference in Abu Dhabi, a group of WTO members took a landmark step forward with the Investment Facilitation for Development Agreement. This plurilateral agreement, which is now supported by 128 economies spanning all regions and with various levels of development, promises to simplify investment processes and sweep away red tape, creating a more transparent environment for businesses across all economic sectors. For African WTO members not yet participating, I encourage you to actively explore this agreement and work towards its full incorporation into the WTO framework. This would help the continent attract more investment aimed at regional and global value chains. As we look forward, let me summarize 3 critical insights about special economic zones. First, strategic design matters. Special economic zones are powerful development tools, but they must be carefully crafted to align with global trade rules, avoiding WTO compliance risks whilst maintaining investment attractiveness. Second, beyond fiscal incentives, these zones are not just tax havens, but policy laboratories and innovation platforms that can test transformative trade strategies and support economic diversification. Third, investment facilitation is key. Investment is critical for economic transformation, and special economic zones are just one tool. The investment facilitation for development agreement is another crucial mechanism that can enhance investment flows, and it is essential for African nations to actively participate and incorporate it into the WTO framework. By combining thoughtful zone design with strong infrastructure and international cooperation, we can redefine African competitiveness sustainably and equitably. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to hearing about the outcomes of this meeting.
Thank you, really impressive video as well. I have 2 announcements. One is there's been sort of a request to the extent that you are okay to sort of move to the middle of the room a bit. That would be appreciated. I've been asked to announce this. There's some very empty seats over there. The second announcement is I have a set of keys. So whoever misses their keys, please do pick them up with me in a minute. Okay, we're moving on to the next, it's a consultation session about SEZ's contribution to the SMEs integration and local economic development. The 2 speakers already seated and patiently waiting. Join me in welcoming both Sid Bubekher, who is lead expert at the African Union Commission, and Peter Kuria-Githinji, who is an SME expert also at the African Union Commission. And they will deliver a presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, Peter and myself are delighted to introduce you the African Union Commission and ISO report on special economic zones, SME integration, and local economic development. We insist a lot on the subject of local economic development because it's one of the key challenges of the Africa continent. So the question that continues to challenge us, both public and private stakeholders, is why, despite numerous initiatives to support SMEs, they still struggle to sustain their activities and to be competitive. Indeed, for decades, we supported them through clusters, through value chains, but we have to state that it is with mixed, if not disappointing results, as the 2 major challenges faced by SMEs, access to market and financing, remained unsolved still at this time. So beyond the cluster model, beyond the value chain model, we asked ourselves what kind of ecosystem could create and guarantee a sustainable market for SMEs, enabling them to grow and to reach a mature phase required to approach financing and banks' loan. This is the rationale behind this study, which aims to determine whether SEZs can provide a viable environment to sustain SME business and support their growth. So my colleague and Peter and myself will present the scope and the methodology of this study, the key findings, the policy recommendations, and an action plan for accelerating the integration of SMEs in SEZ and also contributing to boost the local environment. Yes. I take this opportunity to present the partner and to thank deeply Mrs. Ron Osman, who supervised this study, and Zakaria Ouari, who did a very good backup. And from ISO, we had an impressive support from Mrs. Farah Hanafi and Iba Bikise, and our colleague Kervin Koumapley played a very good coordinating role in this France-Africa Union Commission technical facility. Now, very quickly, the scope of the policy document. We built this study on successful practices from 10 countries across Africa. And our method was to don't look on challenges, issues. We were so impressed by the strong capacity of special economic zones, particularly in Egypt, Morocco, South Africa, Rwanda, Benin, Gabon, willing to implement a new business model, integrating ESG, developing new technologies, including solar panels, as we saw at these special economic zones in South Africa. So we focus on successful models, good practices. Then we move to advocate for modern governance and regulatory frameworks to integrate SMEs into SEZ and to boost local economy. My colleague Peter will go on details on this. We feel that special economic zones need absolutely to modernize their policies and the regulatory framework to be aligned with government policies, which are today in many countries in Africa under building. We highlighted the importance of aligning SEZ investment with ESG principles to attract responsible investment. We encourage a partnership between SEZ, private sector, financial institution to create sustainable market and appropriate financing model. We stressed the goal of SEZ as hub, but it was already highlighted yesterday for the FCTA agenda. We encourage, and it was my main subject during maybe 30 years as developers, subcontracting, outsourcing is key to sustain the market and finance of SMEs. And I think there is a gap here in our continent. And finally, this policy document is a guide for government to reform policy, to upgrade them for attracting sustainable investment. The process here also very quick. We reviewed all government and SEZ policies for these 10 countries. Peter and myself did a lot of field visits in Morocco, South Africa, Benin, Gabon, Kenya. We developed this benchmarking initiative with a clear grid approach. We reviewed SEZ mandate and governance and regulation, and we provided some recommendation with a view to upgrade them. And finally, as I mentioned, this policy document is now a real guide for donors, but also for government to refresh their industrial policies. This is the 10 countries we selected. Don't ask me the selection criteria, but we focused on countries which already are developing some new trends, some best practices, and also which have successful model. I think all in this room will recognize that Egypt, Kenya, Rwanda, Gabon, Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, Morocco, South Africa, Mauritius are doing some very good, developing some very good model which could be disseminated. But in addition to the 20 special economic zones, which were assessed deeply, we add others from Egypt, Gabon, Madagascar, Mauritius, Kenya, etc. And in summary, we analyzed 37 special economic zones. And following African Union Commission recommendation, we benchmarked also with India and China. So I leave the floor to my colleague Peter, who will present the findings of this report and also the policy recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, good morning. Thank you, Sid, for the presentation and introduction. Yeah, just for context is when you've listened from the first day up to today, is that there's been quite a lot of discussion on how SEZs can help transform the African economy. And there is also the need to link to the local economy. And in our emphasis on why we were reviewing the SEZs and trying to define how to support SMEs is because we know that SMEs are the biggest actors in Africa today. They're the biggest driver of the economy, but they still face a lot of challenges. So in our key findings, I will go through the kind of things that we found out. And to start with, like it was mentioned by my colleague Sid, is that part of the key things that we found out when we went to the field is that there is definitely an alignment between the priority areas that the SEZs are working and the sectors that the government has actually identified as critical. And this majority of those that are ongoing are in sectors that have been mentioned earlier, including agriculture, agribusiness, manufacturing, construction, real estate, including tourism. And then at the same time, there are emerging sectors that are very critical and also of higher value. And here we find there is biotechnology, there is pharmaceuticals, there's automotive, there is renewable energy, and of course, areas of circular economy and artificial intelligence and other affiliated technologies. So this is also a testament to say that the SEZs, when they are being located in whatever country, they serve the purpose of also helping countries meet their development agenda. Now, in terms of policies, it is also notable that majority of the countries are upgrading their industrial policies, and they are streamlining them and developing regulatory frameworks that are also enhancing the attractiveness to investors. And of course, looking at the question of sustainable development. And of course, this is critical because coherent policy frameworks are also important in terms of improving or boosting foreign direct investment, and also they strengthen the relationship between the SEZs and the national economies. And of course, again, like it's been mentioned, the better policies mean that they boost the competitiveness of the SEZ through focusing on sectors that promote goods and services for the regional and continental markets. And I think also, as the policies are being upgraded, we are able to create new best practices that can be shared across different SEZs, different countries, because as it's been mentioned, there is need to learn from each other. Now, there is a question of tax reliance, tax incentives, and tax breaks. And I think the discussion that was in that video that was played a few minutes ago enhances the real need for us to start moving away from incentives that are sort of towards distorting the local market. And the good thing is that when you look at the ecosystem of SEZs across Africa, you'll find that there are countries which are moving away from tax incentives or fiscal incentives, are moving towards incentivizing the business environment that really creates a balanced outlook. And of course, this has also implications in terms of if products are being produced without necessarily being distorted in terms of taxes, they facilitate trade across African countries and the rest of the world. Now, in terms of supporting local economy, if you remember, in the first generation SEZs were very focused on basically building businesses that were not really allowing the participation of local firms in their ecosystem. And of course, this was, or rather even today, you find that in integrating local firms into the SEZs is a very expensive venture in some instances. And this means that we need to think of how to improve on that. And then the other issue is that if you look at the new generation of SEZs, is that they pay attention into integrating the local economy, having a bigger impact on the local economy, including taking cognizance of supporting youth, supporting women. So they are more inclusive in the way they are engaging compared to the first generation SEZs. And I think it's better, also it's important to note that to maximize the sales benefits, countries must establish policies that encourage local firms' participation within the SEZ business ecosystem. Now, another thing just to note is that another spillover that comes from SEZs is that somebody who is working, or skilled labor that has been working inside an SEZ, is that when they move from maybe from inside the SEZ to the outside, they are also able to transfer skills and knowledge, which is very, very important. So I think this is the most important part. If you listened carefully throughout, there was a lot of focus on SEZs, but to complement this, we believe that the integration of SMEs into the special economic zones is very important. And again, like it was mentioned by my colleague, whatever we are presenting here is based on what we saw in the field. For example, if you look at Kenya Tatu City, 80% of the industries inside the SEZ are local. And that has a lot of implications. And the interaction between the large enterprises and SMEs can boost and can be boosted, or can boost the contracting and subcontracting. And this is a very critical area, because SMEs that are able to get contracting or subcontracting with firms inside the SEZ, it means that they have already defined a market. And this also helps them become more competitive, because there's skills exchange, practices exchange, and this is very, very important. And again, if you look at the case of South Africa, this is a very strong momentum where the country has a lot of emphasis on supporting young new businesses to become contractors or subcontractors to firms inside the special economic zones. And we've given other cases where this is happening. It's happening in Egypt, it's happening in Rwanda, it's happening in, for example, Gabon. But in Gabon, there's a slight challenge, because they have the facilities for SMEs to access the SEZ, but much of the facilities are not taken up because the cost of entering the SEZ is far beyond their profitability pathway. But at the same time, there's a very positive case of an enterprise that is established within the SEZs, and by it being established there, it's been able to craft new market, including markets in the US. So you can see clearly that it's important for us to have very clear frameworks that allow SMEs to be integral to the SEZ ecosystem. ESG. I think this is a very important part today. And in the past, you'll notice that majority of the people who came, or companies that came to invest in the first generation SEZs, they compromised a lot of social environmental standards. But the new model, the new generation of SEZs, they are embracing the ESG principles. And ESG, for those who follow the news, is become the new tool for measuring the investment appropriateness. For example, in the EU right now, if you are operating, say, in an SEZ in Africa, in Kenya or in Southern Africa, if you are not ESG compliant, your goods or your products cannot enter that market. So again, ESG provides a framework for mobilizing investment. And we have very good examples. Again, I'll give the case of Gabon, where they've done really wonderful work in the wood sector. And if you go to their facility, nothing goes to waste. And again, this is underpinned by the policy that the government put in place, which emphasizes that no single product, wood product, will leave the country if it's not processed. And this is important, that you then create a way that, or a system where you have the principles being put in practice. And of course, there is system of maybe the reporting guidelines and all that. And it's important again to know that countries are already moving very far in terms of trying to implement ESG principles. Madagascar has a very clear SEZ law. And also if you look at even Kenya, there is an ESG law that is embedded in the stock market. And of course, there's a challenge again for us to recognize that while SEZs have a very good framework of ESG compliance, when you move out of the SEZ in the other ecosystem, majority of the actors do not have even an idea of what ESG is. So there's a very big gap, because also this means that the SEZ firms, even if they wanted to cooperate with an entity which is outside their facilities, then it's very difficult because it's going to compromise the integrity of their compliance. Moving on, again, regional and continental integration is very important. It's been mentioned, and it's critical because technically we find that as we talk more, we need to find ways of SEZs playing a bigger role in the development of regional value chains, and this will, of course, bring integration within the continent, and also it will be supporting the Africa Continental Free Trade Area agenda, and of course promote intra-Africa trade and integration. As you know very well, we do very little trade amongst ourselves. What are the policy recommendations? There's a question of governance. And I think technically, majority of people talk of governance, but they do not talk of proper governance. Proper governance is nuanced and different, because proper governance means that you encourage issues that are taking care of the industry. They are bringing the question of ethics standards. So this question is also linked to the ESG. And the main idea here is to build transparent systems and accountable systems, such that everybody is able to have confidence in your business. And as the German entrepreneur spoke, that there is a question of trust. How do you get to trust the enterprises or entities that you'll be working with? And ESG, or the governance structures, are very critical in building trust between the potential collaborators. And again, there's also the question of the governance at times is compromised because we have competing agencies working in the same area with the same objective, and that also can bring a bit of challenge. And some of the practices that we are seeing emerging is that these competing agencies are brought together so that they work, reduce waste, and bring efficiencies in the system. And it's important to think or to talk of SEZs being more, the word is, being more aware of what the world is demanding and the local economy is demanding, and the tools that they use to improve or excite investors to come into their ecosystem. And I think this is also very, very important, that we must facilitate partnerships between SEZs and SMEs, and also with relevant government agencies that will foster and develop that ecosystem that allows the SMEs to develop. And this, again, like mentioned earlier, is that we must prioritize elements like local purchasing, the question of encouraging subcontracting and outsourcing. These are the things that will help boost the ecosystem that allows the SMEs to move further. And of course, the improvement of products and services and quality of SMEs and the standardization and things that follow allows the framework and enables the SMEs to strengthen the quality of their products. And that exchange, when the quality of their products is improved, then they can exploit the local market and even explore markets beyond. And maybe, again, the question of ESG mainstreaming. I think it's important to just mention that by mainstreaming ESG at all levels, and of course including talking or building the capacity of ESG outside the SEZs, will be able to boost the way the businesses take place and improve other opportunities. And again, the question of ESG can be seen in cases of Kenya, Mauritius, Morocco, South Africa, and Gabon. And I think the Tatu City last year was awarded as one of the leading SMEs that has embedded ESG principles to the best compared to the rest by last year. So we don't know who else, when this thing is done this year, is going to maybe to take the mantle from them, or they'll keep the mantle. But this is a very good thing to know that the ESG principles are really being adhered to. Now, the most important one, again here, we think that it's important to leverage AFCTA and the transport corridors, and this means that we need to align the SEZ policies with the AFCTA objectives. We need to facilitate trade. We need to give preferential treatment to goods and services that are emerging from SEZs, and of course with consideration that some of those goods, if the material that they are using is sourced from outside Africa, it has implications. It means that if you source maybe 100% of your material or content or resources from Africa, then you have a bigger market to explore. And then, of course, this enhances, or we need to enhance the market access to produce goods that are able to leverage on the AFCTA agreement, because this is something new, and majority of actors do not necessarily know that it's there and the opportunities that are emerging. And then, this is very important. You got to remember that we also have right now the first generation SEZs, and we have the new generation SEZs. So we need to find ways of supporting the first generation SEZs to transition from being what they were before to become better in terms of maybe integrating ESG principles, social inclusion, elements like that. And of course, when you do that, you also need to facilitate the sharing of knowledge between the first generation SEZs and new generation SEZs, because the practices are better than just somebody preaching to them. And I think there are already good frameworks, again, in Egypt, Kenya, Morocco, Mauritius, Rwanda, South Africa, to name a few. The next, welcome back, Sid. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Peter. One slide on the follow-up on this policy document. As you realized, we developed a study with an action plan. So we are already in the first phase of this follow-up, 1 year from 2024 until 2025. And during this period, we will have two main actions. Awareness campaign aiming to disseminate the findings of this policy document. This awareness campaign will be implemented jointly by African Union Commission and of our partner AESO in different events which will be developed between December and 2025. And the second very important goal is to mobilize funding. And to this end, will establish a task force mobilizing the main institutional financing organizations, donors, to mention some of them, the AFDB, Afreximbank, European Investment Bank, Africa EU Global Gateway. I'm sure that you heard this very important budget provided by European Union, which is a global gateway, and it is 300 billion euro to support the development in the world. And there is already a partnership agreement between EU and Africa to develop some project, particularly focusing on energy, youth employment, women employment, etc. So we will also
we will need to
mobilize
wrap up
funding
very
from...
soon, if you could sort of summarize it quite briefly. Thank you.
And we will mobilize also funding from bilateral development agencies. The last slide, the last. Please, if you wish a copy of this policy document, contact Mr. Zakaria Ouari, who is working with us at Africa Union Commission. Thanks. Thank you.
Apologies for having to wrap up rather more quickly. We're running quite a bit behind. I think that's what we are interested in. We would like to get a copy of the report, so that was very important information as well. Thank you. We will not have time for questions, I'm afraid, but please join me in thanking both of them for a fascinating discussion. Please approach them during the coffee break if you have questions. Thank you so much. We will move on to the next session, which is a UNIDO consultation session. Both of them are already joining us. Please join me in, so the consultation session is on empowering African SEZs in the digital age. And may I welcome, I will already name you, but I know there's a video in a minute, but I'll already welcome you. The presentation will be delivered by H. Tanjut-Gan, who is policy specialist and data analyst at UNIDO, and Stefan Quatsch, who is the head of Sustainable Investments and Responsible Business Unit Division at UNIDO as well. Don't know if you want to wait until you get seated, until the video has passed, but please already join me in.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, I salute the African Union Commission and Africa Economic Zones Organization, with strong technical support by UNIDO, to convene this annual general meeting over the next 3 days under the banner Building Resilient, Inclusive, and Sustainable Economies, the role of African SEZs in attracting impactful investments and redefining competitiveness. The OECPS fully recognizes the power of special economic zones to transform the economic performance of Africa. The continent stands at a critical juncture. On the one hand, Africa holds incredible potential with its youthful population, vast natural resources, and growing market opportunities. Yet despite these advantages, many African nations still face significant economic challenges, from unemployment, weak trade infrastructure, and muted economic governance, to pervasive commodity dependence. In this context, special economic zones present a powerful solution to these challenges, offering a pathway to foster sustainable growth and resilience. Special economic zones are magnets for foreign direct investment. By offering incentives such as tax breaks, streamlined regulations, and improved infrastructure, SEZs create an environment that is attractive to investors. These investments bring capital, technology, and expertise into our economies, stimulating industrial development and creating jobs. For example, the Lekki Free Trade Zone in Nigeria has attracted billions of dollars in FDI, fueling industries ranging from manufacturing to oil and gas. Economic zones are catalysts for industrialization, which is key to reducing dependency on raw material exports. They encourage the development of value-added industries such as manufacturing and processing. This diversification creates more resilient economies that can withstand global market fluctuations. Countries like Ethiopia have harnessed SEZs, such as the Hawassa Industrial Park, to build globally competitive textile and apparel industries, boosting exports and creating jobs for thousands. Perhaps one of the most direct benefits of SEZs is job creation. Economic zones generate employment across sectors, providing opportunities not only for skilled professionals, but also for unskilled and semi-skilled workers. This employment has a multiplier effect, supporting families and communities while boosting local economies. It is estimated that SEZs in Africa have already created hundreds of thousands of jobs, with the potential for millions more. Economic zones provide a platform for technology transfer and skills development. By hosting multinational corporations and global partnerships, special economic zones can equip local workers and entrepreneurs with advanced technologies and best practices. This fosters innovation and enhances the capacity of local industries to compete globally. Special economic zones also support regional integration, of which implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area remains pivotal. By strategically locating special economic zones along borders and trade corridors, countries can enhance cross-border trade and infrastructure connectivity. This integration reduces trade barriers, encourages collaboration, and boosts intra-African trade, unlocking a market of over 1.3 billion people. The establishment of special economic zones often complements investments in infrastructure, such as roads, ports, and power supply. These improvements not only benefit the zones themselves, but also have a spillover effect, enhancing connectivity and productivity across entire regions. We know that special economic zones offer tax incentives, yet they ultimately generate increased government revenue through expanded economic activity. The taxes generated from high employment, increased production, and trade far outweigh the initial fiscal incentives provided to attract investors. To conclude, the economic benefits of special economic zones in Africa are clear. They have the potential to address many of the economic challenges facing the continent, from unemployment to limited industrial capacity, while positioning Africa as a competitive player in the global economy. However, to fully realize these benefits, the development of special economic zones must be pursued with strategic vision and partnership. Governments must create policies that ensure inclusivity, sustainability, and alignment with national development goals. Private sector actors must invest not just in zones, but in the communities around them. All stakeholders must commit to making special economic zones engines of transformation for the continent. Africa's story is serially one of potential and promise. Let us harness the power of special economic zones to write the next chapter, a chapter of growth, innovation, and shared prosperity for all. I thank you for your attention and extend best wishes for your deliberations.
Please join me in welcoming our two speakers who will also deliver a presentation. And I have the keys still, so if anybody's keys are here, then please come to my table there.
Thank you very much. Short, because most of you may have listened to the presentation of UNIDO yesterday morning, presenting the findings of a UNIDO AESO report, which thankfully comprised answers from 63 operational zones across Africa and shed a very important light on some of the dynamics, performance indicators, as well as also some opportunities and constraints that still exist. So we are very grateful for being given yet another session by AESO and also our partners from SEZA. And how we want to organize this session is to move from empirical findings to some concrete actions, and also to present to you very briefly the instruments that UNIDO has developed
in boosting industry development in and around special economic zones. It's not providing the full range of things, but some areas that we support for many years are related to tracking, SDG tracking of tenants inside the zones. We heard about the very important ESG transitions that have to happen within the zones. So SEZ authorities need to be aware, ideally in almost real time, how their tenants are doing and if they manage and realize those transitions. The second one is in relation to also support on feasibility analysis. So UNIDO has been for the past 30, 40 years supporting feasibility or pre-feasibility analysis for large industrial projects, not only looking at new greenfield projects, but also modernization, expansion, rehabilitation. And perhaps just to mention rehabilitation or expansion or modernization, we might have a case here in many zones, as we heard just from the previous presentation, that we have to move from the old type special economic zones into new generation zones. And that starts with energy supply. I mentioned it yesterday already. If we want to move to decarbonization, one pivotal part will be what's the power mix of the zone? And what does it mean in terms of additional investments? Does the zone have to invest in its autonomous energy infrastructure, solar, water, maybe geothermal, as here in Kenya? Or does it rely on the main grid, in which case it has to do policy advocacy at its level to move towards greener transition? So this is just an example on let's say, how to frame future investments into SEZs. But without further ado, I want to pass the floor to Tamer to take you through the presentation. And once again, please feel free to download the report. The QR code was shared yesterday. We just have a few copies that unfortunately we did not print a full batch of hard copies, but we absolutely encourage you to download the report, revert back to us if you agree, also disagree with some of the findings, so we can discuss and take it to the next level. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I have to wait a bit, the presentation. There's a technical arrangement, I assume so. I will not repeat general findings. More or less, I will present the similar slides, but we are focusing on, in a sense, that we are talking about the management issues or the governance issues. Also yesterday, what we discussed, the size, integration, or energy efficiency, the related issues. We see maybe they are isolated in itself, but also we are covering under the management issue. And also we mentioned yesterday, the data collection had two purposes. One is preparation of the report to understand the profiles of the special economic zones in Africa, and also having them presented in the investment.unido.org platform. Also, one of the issues mentioned, attracting investment. So we are also providing that kind of support, special economic zone. If we are ready, please let me know, or otherwise I can continue with the one of the challenges that we mentioned. We started with the 300 plus special economic zone registered in different databases. And we had the 218, they are operational. And we had a big team to update the contact details of those special economic zones. And we were able to reach only 100 plus single contact details, and out of this 100 plus, we were able to reach 60 of them. And this shows also reachability, accessibility issues. I think we need such platforms to put or register, because if we don't register, we cannot start. The first presentation and yesterday's presentation mentioned that our presenters or speakers mentioned that they are ready to invest in Africa, but where, how, and this kind of information is vital to match the demand and the supply. And in my university time, when I was writing the thesis, and when I asked the economic professor, and he said the most important thing is the supply and the demand, the rest is we are earning our money. So if we match this with the supply and demand, actually we will also get the low-hanging fruits easily, then we can build on top of that. I think I see on the screen the presentation, but here, is it possible? Yeah. So another issue when I come to, because we don't have so much time, we talk about the This is the slide that I mentioned, and of course we had some sampling issues. We oversampled some regions. On the right side we are seeing West Africa oversampled, and the rest of the regions a bit undersampled or reachable. And this is the location related slide. Especially we looked at the distance to the different logistic terminals, and we also disaggregated the data, landlocked countries and the non-landlocked countries. Apparently, landlocked countries' distances are farther than the non-landlocked countries, which is also showing a strategic planning issue. If you are away from the seaports, actually 80% of the global trade is through the seaborne opportunities. The planning here is quite important, and this comes also the governance issue. Size I mentioned, investment also we mentioned, the occupancy also management, and also planning, strategic planning. And once we are talking about the planning, also we should consider this strategic implementation. Sectoral focus, it's also planning, also implementation, also governance issue. It can be isolated issue, but a part of it. There are already established solutions in different sources, how we can do it. We also looked at the investment, job creation, ownership, women employment. These are also under the governance, can be discussed separately. Public ownership, private ownership, and PPP models has been mentioned, but also yesterday Stefan mentioned that no matter the model is, the individual management should implement it properly. From the infrastructure point of view, most of the basic services we saw it is on place. Out of those we have reached. Digital literacy and gap. Administrations are a bit behind than their tenants in the digital literacy perspective. And yes, this is registered, but this is also opportunity to improve it. So regulatory framework, 92%, we have got proof that is there. Maybe 8% we didn't reach, we were not able to reach, but through the sessions we know that policy, it's always there, and they are building very concretely, but once it is coming to the implementation, the most important thing, who will implement, how we will implement. And for that, we need also lots of things, most of the time the data and how we will implement this data, also decentralization of some services, some implementation, and this needs a good coordination. So many reports, and in our reports we have got the observations, scale limitation, facilitating linkages and the spillovers, ensuring the sustainability, attracting investments, promoting sectoral diversification, and strengthening the management quality, and coming on the top as an umbrella, supporting the policy reforms and implementing these policy reforms successfully. And SEZs are very important in this perspective because they can be used as a pilot, and once it is piloted, it can be replicated in other SEZs and also in the rest of the economy. So I will present soon the digital platform, why it is important, that we can put all those components under the digital platform, so that we can also provide the accessibility to the investors, and also the demands from the SEZs for the technical assistance, so streamlining the SEZ promotion, targeted data collection, measure what matters, improve what is measured, principle, and improve the stakeholder relationship, both way, enhance monitoring and evaluation, improved access to finance, resource mobilization, enhanced transparency, facilitating regional integration, customization and flexibility according to the country and the institution needs, supporting smaller and emerging special economic zones, optimizing the supply and the value chains, enhance visibility, improved policy coordination, and best practices sharing. Wow, it is so broad. Are we able to? Yes, we need data, we need the implementation agencies, also the institutions in the country, and this should be coordinated. So what we are providing as tools, as Stefan also mentioned, we have got investment platform, so increasing the interest, the investors' interest to the special economic zones, we can utilize it, and within that we have got multiple sub-programs, let's say, and subcontracting and partnership exchange, which was mentioned earlier presentation. It is important to integrate SMEs, suppliers to the large buyers, and also improving their standards to the requirements of the buyers. And also this can be used as a development tool. We have got a computer model for feasibility analysis and reporting. From the company level till country level, we are able to do the feasibility studies, not only financial, but also the ESG and other components are available. We have got business register investment monitoring, effective management of SEZ, governance, as I mentioned. And we have got other programs like eco-industrial parks, integrated agro-industrial parks. You can find under IPP.unido.org in details. And we have been, since 70s, working with the industrial parks frameworks. So, am I able to show the live demonstration? No, I would like to go to the website, which is on my computer now. I need to. No, not in this presentation, the website that is connected to my computer, please. So what we are trying to do, we are contacting with the special economic zone administrations, and for example, in this first study, we directly contacted to the individual special economic zones, and some of them also assisted through the special economic zone administrations, and we were not able to reach all of them. But we saw this is an opportunity, and 2 weeks ago we started with the SEZA to profile all the special economic zones in the country, and with their help we were able to profile and register all the special economic zones on the platform, and this is also possible with other countries, I assume so, and therefore I think it is not a missed opportunity. We can still do after the anytime actually, because we are going to provide the link, and we will get the information, and we will register and promote the special economic zones in our portal platform. No, not problem.
System based machine is just something it is not showing over there. So if there's a way you can do it.
Are you going to put it there?
If you could get something.
It is ready. I cannot get it.
Let me try something.
Okay, sorry for the technical problem. So also we have got the another component, which is the digital investment promotion system that we are registering the. Can I give the laptop and you can do it there or something? I don't know. It was working yesterday. Because it will be difficult to verbally explain and try to use your imagination in this respect. So in the digital investment promotion system, we are also collecting the data under the business intelligence or investment intelligence business registries. The different institutions can register their tenants, clients, or the investors under their, let's say, data.
Pick the laptop.
Okay, but can I also comment from here, or should I go there?
Maybe there.
Okay. So they will try to do it on the backstage. Maybe I need to go. Please let me know when it is ready. I can come there. So after the business registry, the institutions can register their tenants, and all they are secure and role-based and institution-based, which means each institution can reach only their tenants or clients' information, and this information is not going to be publicly available, only for the eyes of the user institutions. And then we are coming to the point that I mentioned, measure what matters. For example, if you would like to develop the export promotion, you can select the suitable businesses among those. You can measure the current states and maybe cherry pick which are ready for the export promotion, and work on the export promotion related needs of those companies to make them ready for the export. And if you would like to connect to the national development objectives of the country, any sector, any region, any size group can be selected among those registered companies, and also you can work on that. So this is integrated to, for example, you would like to increase the capacities or improve the technical requirements of the suppliers. Again, you can select and you can integrate to the SPX program that I mentioned, and you can work on those. Okay, can I come there? How I will...
So this is live improvisation. I think this has to do with some technical glitches, but...
Sorry.
Okay, you are there. Good.
Yeah. Can you bring my mouse? So you are seeing here our registered special economic zones on the map, and once your institution also registered, we can go. For example, here we see Ethiopia, and also here the general view, we can select Kenya, and we can focus on institutions individually. We can see here multiple institutions. For example, if you go to Tatu City, we get the information. These are provided by the individual special economic zones. And we can measure the distance to the transportation hubs or logistics hub, and their promotional statement, their social media accounts, contact details, sales management contact details, some images, investment and the job criteria, governance, and the infrastructure available in the special economic zones. Yes, so far I think we have got Ethiopia, Kenya, and Zambia fully covered in the special economic zone perspective. We have got more than 100 special economic zones registered, and from the report, we mentioned also 26 countries. We reached 63 special economic zones. And when I go to the digital investment platform, what we see here, the basic is registering the companies under the business registry. We have got the contact details of the companies. And this is only available for the institutions who are profiling, which are profiling the companies. The data will be available only for those institutions. There will be no publication to the outside world. So descriptive data we can collect about the company, the type, the size criteria, okay, it's a bit pale, we cannot see revenue, the Let me check whether it is possible. No. So the capital, number of employees, whether they are exporter or not, or the foreign ownership percentage, and whether they received incentives or not. And also we have got the, here in the previous one, whether they are part of any industrial park or SEZs. That's why it is important to register your SEZs and develop your own database in the second phase of the data collection. And then what we can do the data collection through the system. Data collection is flexible, but depends on the, let's say, the form that we are going to utilize. In this respect, if it is a large questionnaire, we can collect online, or the face-to-face interview, then we can do the data entry manually to the system. We did the fully telephone interviews by using the system during the COVID time. We were able to reach more than 4,500 investors through the efforts of 8 investment promotion agencies. It was very much appreciated by the investors during that time. We can select different types of questionnaire. This is the issue or the framework that I mentioned, measure what matters. You can create your own measurement with the framework that we are going to provide, and then you can decide how you will measure these specific issues. What we need to do, develop the samples, which means you can develop your samples from the business directory. You can divide into special economic zones, or you can divide into sectors, you can divide into exporters, you can divide into different cross-section wise, or the dimension, and then you can follow up. As I mentioned that, the most important part, how you implement the policy and the strategy. If you are giving all the burden to one institution, it is difficult. But if you are dividing into and making them responsible and follow up through the integrated systems as such, it will be much easier, and follow up would be also easier. We have got multiple modules, as I mentioned, within the form section, and one of them is taking the data and directly transferring into the IRM, which is the investment relationship management, which is on the inquiries. Direct inquiries you can register through the direct manual data entry, or you can collect also online inquiries. And through the forms, we are generally on the business intelligence level, and we are trying to understand the aspiration and the readiness of the companies for any type of technical assistance or the aftercare services, for example, expansion or retention. You are able to analyze this data and find the prioritized companies which are ready, maybe this type of action, and you can here follow up how many inquiries you received, how many of them assigned, how many of them pending, resolved, and closed. Last but not least, let me show you maybe the last one. It was, yes. Once you click on the inquiry, you can see here, maybe I can make it a bit bigger. Yes, again, you can follow up the whole process through different stages. You can register the issue, you can describe the issue. If you want, you can attach the documents. Whether the issue operational, administrative, or strategic. For example, if it is strategic or operational for the expansion, you select. You can also register expected returns of this expansion to have prioritization, how much additional employment, how many employees or how much additional investment will be generated from this project, expected returns-wise, whether it is inquiry or a grievance dispute. You can select. Also, you can define the status and the importance, whether it is medium, high, or low importance, to make it, and you can assign to the team member, key account officer, and also I'm able to see, here. Every step of this solution is registered, how many different users involved in solution provision, what they did is also registered. The internet is, okay, yeah. So who are taking care of this case and what they did, and multiple the iterative solutions can be provided, and this will stay in the knowledge management of the institution. The beauty about that, yes, you can solve one problem and you can refine it and you can replicate into the other situation. So you can use also planning, knowledge management, and also, as I mentioned, as a laboratory experiment too, if you have got the new policy, you can implement into some group of investors and measure with the others, and once it is measured, you can also replicate into other groups with more methodologically. I'm cutting here, and if you have got questions, we can continue with the question and answer session. Yes, we have got also other programs, as Stefan mentioned. We have got the investment opportunity profiles and many methodologies developed by UNIDO. Not only the data side is just a tool. But if you are coming with any technical assistance, we can integrate these methodologies to the data, and we are able to follow up the progress and the implementation of the successful implementation. If it is not successful, we will have the lessons learned, and we can also easily overcome in the next implementation. Thank you very much. We can put the video.
We realize this gadget is not compatible with our system, so we have to change ours.
Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you for really presenting a fascinating tool, online tool. Is there anything else you would like to add, or does that end the presentation?
Yeah. Was it went well? Yeah, thank you.
To play a short video, still about the solution. And yeah.
Welcome to UNIDO's investment platform, the gateway linking global investors to opportunities in Africa, the Caribbean, the Pacific, and beyond. Designed to empower growth, this platform brings the advantages of special economic zones directly to investors' fingertips. Through our user-friendly interface, investors can explore a comprehensive database of special economic zones across the ACP regions and discover prime locations tailored for manufacturing, agribusiness, technology, and more. This is of particular advantage to special economic zone managers. Each zone is profiled with detailed information, from tax incentives and world-class infrastructure to strategic benefits, to make your special economic zone stand out in the global market. If you're looking to promote your special economic zone and make it attractive to potential investors globally, UNIDO's investment platform is your partner in turning vision into value. Reach out to UNIDO today to tap into the solutions that
You're looking at me, which means I think that I can move on to Q&A. We have a slight rescheduling, which means I can take one, maximum two questions.
Do we have the time for it? Then
yes, because of the rescheduling.
We
that I
have
just
questions
heard
and
of.
time. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I know that you wanted to ask a question, so I'll let you have the floor. Then you wanted to ask a question. No, first he has been asked.
Thank you. Yeah, my question goes to Tama. I actually want to ask, how do you validate this data? You know, most of the discussion earlier stated the importance of trust. And I think there should be a trust in terms of information that you provide on your website. If I say the employment generation that I have is 30,000, how do you validate it? And secondly, again, you mentioned that you do give support in terms of reviewing of feasibility study. What are the procedures for this? And thirdly, I think I spoke with Steven yesterday, and I asked a question, how do you balance revenue generation and economic development? Can the two work at the same time? Or you have to kind of state clearly whether it's 70% revenue generation, 30% economic development, or in terms of SEZ, probably because when you generate job and other things, the investors will spend a lot of money there. But at the same time, the government of the day still need revenue to do other critical things. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, okay, yeah.
The validation issue related, for example, with the Special Economic Zone Authority that we work in Kenya, we collected the data through them. First, of course, they sent the questionnaires or the forms to the Special Economic Zones. And once we received it, they also validate the answers from their side, and then we published. Secondly, we can also update anytime because we are providing the contact details. And please note that this information, once it is published, it's always born to the, let's say, decay if we are not updating, because tomorrow, immediately, it can be different, the capacity, occupancy rate, or contact details. For example, in one country, we would like to go to another level, but when we try to start, the whole management changed, and we need to update, for example. And other questions?
Maybe to complement still on the validation. I mean, at the moment we are collecting data that is given to us by the SEZ authority, but of course we could go a next step to really have sort of site-specific validation where we send maybe also external experts, external consultants to actually validate information about developed land, about the existence or not of standard factory buildings and these type of things. Another way of validation, and we want to go heavily into this area also with partners like Google, for example, is to use maps and stratification and layers in maps. Because if the SEZ authorities, and we had a few cases, they're indicating my park is X kilometers away from the next dry port or from the next port, it doesn't take much to verify this information on the map. So as a matter of fact, doing it through geospatial analysis can be easier or is more reliable than perhaps relying. And there's more that we could add to it. I mean, we could look at socio-demographic information or data in the vicinity of the park, which is very important if we want to make projections about future market growth potential, etc. If you have an agro park, for example, climate-related data is very crucial Because if you have agro-processor zone and they rely on constant and reliable supply to keep the machines and the process running, and you see that most of the farming around is rain-fed farming, you will find that there is a lot of volatility, potential volatility in your agricultural supply. So again, here, this type of data that you can get from maps about most climate change affected areas, hence risk to farming, can be very crucial. So this is where we want to drive the process in the future. On the feasibility studies, what we advocate for is a sequentiality of feasibility studies. I think this is very important. We get a lot of requests to say, can you neither do a full-fledged feasibility study from the get-go? Please do it on that site. Government has already decided that this is where the park should be. And sometimes we question this approach from the very beginning to say, is this following a business rationale? Do we find a sufficient industrial tissue and fabric around where the site is being proposed? So what we can do is, what I mean by sequentiality is we can do initial light scoping of potentially competing sites. We don't go into all the issues of legal analysis, urban planning, master planning, etc. And then we go to the next step of a pre-feasibility study as a short list from the long list. Again, we do the analysis at a lighter stage, but then looking already into all these issues. And then we take the short list from the short list and we do a feasibility analysis, which is not cheap. I mean, I'm just doing one in Nigeria, and it's 500,000 USD. If you do it well, especially if you want to see what is your catchment area around the park, maybe for SMEs to relocate, you may have to survey them if they have the financial means to relocate and all these type of things. Now, on the let's say the offsetting logic between revenue and economic returns, this is, I think, first a conversation that one has to have at the political level. Not all SEZs have to be profit-making per se, outweighed by job creation, digitalization impact, local linkages impact, etc. So what the system does, the COMFAR that Tamer mentioned, it does very much on financial feasibilities. So it looks into revenue models that park can generate from services they provide, from leasing out the land, from selling out the land sometimes, and yeah, again, all sorts of different services, legal services, financial services, training services, etc., that they could charge for. And then, of course, to juxtapose that with the capital expenditures and the operating expenditures. When it comes to economic analysis, it's a bit trickier because, first of all, there is such a huge metrics around what you can measure. I mean, if some of you have dabbled into impact investing as maybe investors you want to attract, the impact investor community themselves struggle. Should we use the SDGs, the SDG targets as our metrics? Should we use, for example, IRIS Plus is another metrics of 500 social, environmental indicators that you can use to measure the product. We have Global Reporting Initiative, Sub-Z, etc. So what we need to do is initially to define maybe the priority 3, 4, 5 social and environmental indicators that we want to measure. Because if it's too many, it's difficult to measure across time. And that, again, is a conversation we need to have. It's anchored from the policies, from the SDG, let's say, objectives, which should be anchored into the industrial policy. And from that downwards, we would cascade what that then exactly means in measure social and environmental returns from SEZ.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe we can take one more quick question. I think the woman here wanted to ask a specific question. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you so much for your presentation and for the great technology you just gave all of us. So I have a question. As an industrial park builder, I'm wondering how exactly are you going to make sure that the data you are getting are always going to be updated? Because now you're definitely relying on human interaction. I will have to give you my SEZ data and so on. Is there a way to leverage technology to make sure that you will always get the relevant data and that we can, all of us, use? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I mean, at the moment, what we do is we have focal points in the SEZ authorities, which give us the data at one specific point in time, and we would define, let's say, the rate intervals within which we want to update the data, which ideally should maybe be every 6 months, not much longer than that. The next step in the development of the system would actually to have sort of an interface which can be directly managed by the focal point in the SEZ authority, to have sort of at any point in time, if one attribute changes in any of your park sites and you learn about it, you can go into a system and change that specific attribute directly. Then still we would probably validate it before then we are posting it live. But that's sort of the next step. Right now you would have to send the questionnaire to UNIDO, and we would have to insert it in the backend. Yeah, but what you see, and that's why we developed this solution almost 3 years, is it's not just the portal, the front end that you see, but it's completely through an API and a digital interface linked to a backend solution. And so data flows from the backend to the front end, and even through the inquiries that Tamer mentioned, from the front end, which catches the inquiries, back into the back end, where then a focal point can ideally swiftly handle the inquiries. So it's a process. It's a process like any IT project. And it, of course, we want to have sort of also check-in points so that we are not on a spree to keep developing, but we want to see if the clients are responsive and positive about the solution. And once we ascertain that, then we move to the next stage.
And one thing, we don't guarantee the, let's say, recency of the data. You should guarantee the recency of the data, because we are not using the data, we are going to use the data. And we are providing the tool that you can see on the platform how old is this data from this company, and whether you need to update. And again, measurement comes with what matters. If it doesn't matter, you should not measure. Why you are asking the question if you are not utilizing the data? That's the important part. Of course, you can do the ad hoc data collection. If you have got some subject, a presentation before, they did a wonderful study out of the SEZs, yes, create the policy. But once you are starting with this decentralized data collection in different institutions, you can collate this data, aggregate this data, and you can build up the policies and turn back, implementation of these policies, measure again whether it's effective or not. I mean, if you are not using the data, please do not collect, because each time when I'm talking with the investors, what is the benefit out of this? Every second month, somebody is coming and asking something. And there are ways, I mean, it is quite long discussion we can have, but let's start with the registration. And we can build upon, on top of this, whether we will go with the measurement or the profiling of the tenants, and if we are profiling on which purposes, on what we are going to do, whether we have got any specific topic like the technical assistance, the development, the supplier development, or energy efficiency, and then we have got the purpose. Then we can implement the programs together with the data.
Thank you very much. Yes, I agree really, really important effort, and I would like to thank you as well for pursuing it. I think we all agree on that. So thank you both for the introduction of your website and your tool. And yeah, that leaves me to thank you for presenting it here, Tamar and Stefan. So this concludes the speakers part of the meeting. I just have a few announcements left. For those who are ISO members, the General Assembly has been moved backwards, obviously. It will now be in 10 minutes, in 8 minutes, downstairs where the gala dinner was, so at 12 o'clock. For all who are members, the General Assembly, you can please move downstairs. And for me, it leaves me just simply to thank the organizers again, the ISO and the African Union Commission, for organizing this. I am very impressed. I was very impressed for the 2 days. All the speakers, all the interesting and fascinating insights provided. I personally learned enormous amounts, and I'm sure you did it as well. And you're looking forward to next year's session, or next year's meeting as well. I also would like to thank all the speakers for making themselves available and for all the preparations and so on that went into their contributions, and of course to you as participants for being here, for asking questions, and so on. So, and finally, for myself, it's been a pleasure to serve you as the moderator slash master of ceremony today and yesterday, and I wish you an enjoyable rest of the conference, obviously, and on this afternoon's visits to SEZ facilities as well, which started at 2 p.m. Okay, that's for me, and I wish you a good rest of the day.
Think about Africa's limitless potential. Think about our continent's abundant natural resources and youth.
Imagine Africa forging its own path to industrialization.
Imagine this. Gabonese timber not just exported as logs, but also transformed within Gabon into luxury furniture. Well, it's happening.
Imagine cotton, not just picked in Benin, but woven into high-quality garments right here. That is also happening.
Imagine soybeans from Togo, processed and bottled as stable oil in Togo. It's happening here and now. Actually, you don't need to imagine. This is the reality. It's already happening. Thanks to him, thanks to her, thanks to us.
Working hand in hand with the states to accelerate our country's development.
This new dawn of African industrialization was once thought impossible. It is now happening. We are transforming locally, ensuring our continent no longer exports its valuable resources raw and at a low cost. It's happening.
Our mission is to train and educate our youth in industrial trade, creating tens of thousands of jobs. That's happening. Our objective is to add more value on our soil. This is not just a vision, it is a journey we made happen.
We design, finance, build and operate industrial platforms dedicated to the industrialization of our nation.
In Gabon, Togo, in Benin, but also in
Côte d'Ivoire,
Democratic Republic of the Congo,
Nigeria,
Rwanda,
the Republic of Congo,
Chad, Sierra Leone. Each day we strive to unleash Africa's full industrial potential. An ambitious plan comes with its challenges, and ours is no exception. Yet, we face them with humility, and we push ourselves to exceed our limits.
We are transforming Africa because we believe in Africa.
And this transformation is not an imagination. It's happening here and now.